Your CFO says no when you complain about overtime misclassification. Here's a real Reddit story that talks about this and how it happens every single day. I'm an HR director and I need advice. 6 months ago, our CFO wanted to reclassify 15 employees as salaried exempt to cut overtime costs. I raised concerns because I wasn't sure their job duties met the legal exemption test. They don't supervise anyone and they don't make independent business decisions. They just do technical work. I asked if we could get legal review before making the change. The CFO said, "We don't need to spend money on lawyers for this. It's standard practice in our industry, just make the change." I documented my concerns in an email, but ultimately made the reclassification because I was told it was a business decision, not an HR decision. Last week, one of those employees quit and filed a wage claim. Now, the Department of Labor is investigating all 15 employees. Preliminary estimate, $287,000 in back pay, penalties, and legal fees. The CFO is now asking me, why didn't HR catch this before we made the change? I literally flagged it 6 months ago and was overruled. How do I protect myself here? Do I have any liability as the HR person who processed the reclassification, even though I raised concerns? Yeah, that sucks. And it's a really all too common story. My name's Alex Castro. I'm a labor and employment attorney in South Florida with AXC Legal PLLC. None of this that we're going to talk about here today is legal advice. If any of this sounds like a situation you've dealt with or something that you are currently dealing with, you need to talk to your own lawyer about this. And hey, if you need one, you can book a consultation with me below. It happens all the time where somebody sees the overtime costs on a balance sheet and is like, we need to figure out how to cut this. And then they realize, oh, well, they think about that one time somebody said, well, yeah, we don't pay overtime because all of our employees are salaried. So they think, okay, that's the fix. You just make somebody salaried and you don't have to pay overtime. It's a really common misconception and it's dead wrong. Salaried is part of what you need to do to have an employee being exempt from overtime, but it's not the end all be all. And as an HR person, you're usually the preliminary person who's got the responsibility here. You're the one who's there figuring out, is this job position exempt, non-exempt, all that sort of stuff. And you make the case. And then leadership approves or doesn't approve. The problem there is that a lot of folks like to play a little bit fast and loose with legal liability. And somebody explained this to me once in a really good way, that legal liability isn't gambling, it's actually just debt. In a situation like this with overtime misclassification, the liability's there. You've made the decision, you've made the wrong decision. It's really just about whether or not somebody makes a claim or makes a complaint or the DOL catches on. But in a situation like that, there really aren't very many questions about whether or not you got it right or not. You're dead wrong. You just got caught. Somebody explained to me once, if you were going to a bank to take out a loan, you would never take on debt like that unless you actually thought about it intelligently and you took time to think about it. But for some reason, people with legal concerns, they take that debt on every day and they pray that they don't get caught. In my experience, it's really just a matter of time before most people get caught. And especially in situations like this, where we're talking about like wage and hour type stuff, it's almost always systemic. So if you made this decision for one person, you've probably made it for all 15 other people. And now you've just got compounding type of liability and debt here because you made this change for everybody. So as the HR person, it's pretty scary. You have raised this issue. Nobody really seems to be listening to you. And now you're like, oh crap, am I on the hook here? The good news is on like wage and hour stuff, you as the HR person may not be individually responsible unless it's like somebody directly a member of your team. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't ultimately fall on you, right? Because as we saw like with this CFO, he saw an HR issue pop up, and so then he automatically blames it on HR when we all know you tried to raise the issue and you just got swatted down. Happens all the time. So if you're the HR person and you want to protect yourself here, well, obviously you got to keep this documented, right? Like you've made your complaint and you got ignored. But that's legal liability. That's not like your own reputation within the company and all that sort of stuff. Because now this CFO, even though you raised this issue, now looks at you as ineffective and as being the cause of this issue. And now you're left wondering like, am I in trouble for my job? Just because somebody didn't agree with me, even though they're obviously the ones in the wrong. And that's the reality of it. There's no real fix to this. Unfortunately, I often tell people when they're in places like this, you got to get up and find a different place because you don't want to tie your name to folks who are not valuing your expertise. Your obviously correct expertise, by the way. And that's just going to get you in trouble both reputationally, legally, potentially. The question you might be wondering is, how on earth do I get these people to actually take me seriously and listen to me? It's a tricky one, but you always have to learn how to speak the other person's language. So here, you're trying to communicate to the CFO that, hey, this is important. Put it in words that they're going to understand. Speak their language of money. Take some time. go online, do some research on what are we on the hook for if we get these exemption classifications wrong. And you're gonna see a ton of information on people talking about how one wage and hour lawsuit, where if you've got $5,000 in unpaid overtime for a misclassification, you might actually owe $50,000 at the end of the day after legal fees, penalties, and all that sort of stuff. Approach that with them, right? Don't talk about it in terms of, hey, this is a legal issue and we're gonna get exposed. Say, hey, we're gonna miss out on paying $5,000 here, and we're gonna incur $50,000 to $100,000 per employee on fixing this issue. And maybe that's one way that you get listened to here. You can always send them this video, by the way. If you need help with any of this, click the link below to schedule a consultation with me.